October 11, 2022. Sometimes I can't help but wonder how humanity got the way it did when it came to fetishes. I wouldn't say it bothers me, as long as you're not literally getting sick or hurting somebody in the process, fictional or not. But I don't think I'll ever understand what could possibly make people's heads cross wires in such a way, to the point where someone somewhere could be attracted to licking doorknobs even. I mean, there's the somatosensory cortex of the brain having to things in close proximity to each other, that's one thing, but sometimes fetishes just get so hyper-specific that you either can't tell at first or can tell right away based on how physically impossible it is, right? That, or it's so weirdly innocent looking, that you can't help but wonder why anyone would ask you to draw whatever it is you're drawing. Now you're probably wondering why I showed up blathering about these topics right off the bat. I've read over internet horror stories, as I would put it, about artists being commissioned to draw the most oddly basic, undertone-reeking, and sometimes scary pictures for the benefit of getting someone off. At the very worst, some of them just go on to fetish mine unsuspecting people, occasionally including kids. I was contacted last year by someone like that. A DeviantArt user who went by the name Lightofmylife2000. All I have left to say now before I go into detail is that yes, this is a real person, and that he is unfortunately still out there looking for more. It began when he sent me a note while I was finishing up a self-portrait. One that read, "Hi, you take commission? I pay 45. From first glance, his first language definitely wasn't English. I could have assumed a child was speaking to me, but I found it hard to believe someone that young would have $45 on standby just like that, so I shrugged and assumed a scam bot contacted me. Lol, how relatable. Although something about him threw me off. His username was nothing like the other more basic aliases that scammers go by, and his profile picture actually depicted artwork of what looked like the top of a glowing light bulb. I decided to message him back, just to confirm if my suspicions were right. Yes, I take comms. Feel free to tell me what you want, but be sure to look back on the sheet first. 4 minutes later, I got this message back. Okay, character I want to be drawn is my OC. She's power 4 slot machine, standing with wires coming from back, eyes and mouth shining yellow lights. Following the message was a link to a now sold adoptable, depicting this robot woman with spiky yellow hair, themed after electricity. I thought it would be somewhat fun to draw, as I rarely draw complex designs like these, much less ones that are machine-based. I mean, as long as it's nothing too crazy, like a transformer or bionicle, I thought it'd be a nice challenge to take up. He agreed to let me bump up the price to $50, and I got straight to work afterward. It took me about 6 hours to make, and while it wasn't perfect, I definitely had some pride in what I had accomplished. The money was passed over to my PayPal account, and before I sent him the artwork, a little bit of curiosity swirled up. Assuming he does art, has he ever used this freshly bought adoptable for any of his own work, or is it solely just for commissioned art? That's when I made the mistake of checking his art gallery. Seemed okay on the first page, it simply had a bunch of sloppy sketchy ref sheets done by him, but on page 2, no joke, no exaggeration, his entire profile was choked with pictures of pre-existing characters, in slapstick fashion, getting bound by some form of bondage, light bulbs screwed in every hole of their body, and electrocuted from head to toe. You name a character that melted a fandom's heart, he probably commissioned it. Crystal from Star Fox, Rouge the Bat, Angel Dust, there was so much exaggerated light bulb-faced electrocution porn. I didn't think that would ever come out of my mouth, but yeah, it was a rather unpleasant surprise to be greeted with. I could only find one picture to show that's not as bad as the others, but still pretty damn bad knowing the context of it all. Needless to say, I was pissed that I wasted so much of my time nearly appeasing someone's fetish. Well, behind the screen at least. When I direct messaged him, I decided to take the snarky route and rub it in his face that the art's finished, but he's not gonna see it. The only thing he was ever going to get was his money back. Normally one would expect someone this obsessed to get mad swear type slurs even, but that's not what I read back from him. Not a "fuck you," not a barrage of insults on a 5th grade level, but an "okay sorry." Right before he blocked me might I add. Upon looking into the comments on one of his more prominently visited posts, being a drawing of a Friday Night Funkin' character strung with Christmas lights and burnt to a crisp, it seemed like only about 2 people were actually into it somehow. One even had this really weird roleplay full of responses that were super brief, almost uncannily similar to how he spoke to me in notes. The rest of the comments though absolutely set him on fire with hate. They spoke out against him for mining up porn without people knowing it was meant to be porn, having a kink that was flat out dangerous, and the lady who sold that electro had adoptable. Yeah, turns out she didn't even sell it to him, and the real owner of the character had to make a status post informing her followers to stay away. To think people even need to do such a thing, just because one person they've never met decided to one day lay their unwashed hands on something that doesn't belong to them. What a shame. It is times like these where I ask myself if I should move to a different website. Anyway, that's my piece. All I can say is, stay away from this thing at every cost please. Always background check before you sell something. I don't know what the moral is here. October 30th, 2022. This can't be happening. I refuse to believe I wasn't in bed having a nightmare. So I decided to check back on our old friend, Lightofmylife2000, if you can even call him that anymore. I can't stomach anyone seeing him as an acquaintance either. The week was long and tiring, and I really needed a good laugh before bed. Me and my friends have this little routine where we spend the night reacting to bad art, bad writing, bad whatever you could think of. Bad yet silly people weren't out of the question, and the light bulb guy was the first one to pop up in my head. I was curious to know if the lolcow did anything to get himself into more trouble, since his whole shtick was definitely dwindling into that territory. His posts, full of ramblings, requests, and what I think were manic episodes all aimed towards something. I want Vol. Give Vol for power. Someone anyone power please yes. Please someone please someone Vol. Give me Vol give me power. Power on and stick your tongue and jitter. My first thought, much like everyone else's in that group chat, was, what the fresh fuck is he saying? I had not a single clue what Vol could have meant, let alone the incomprehensible requests he was asking for. Power clearly had something to do with his fetish, but the rest of his begs were like Greek to me. Then we checked his gallery. Only 2 posts were made since I last skimmed through his profile, one being a flash photograph of Light's hand holding a real light bulb, the title reading, "Need more first." I think it's imperative for me to note before I describe the latter, everything in his gallery is pretty much just in the wind now as I post this. I couldn't find a single Wayback Machine link, despite coming across like 5 snapshots a few days after meeting him. Only one of his requests were ever downloaded by me. One that I had a good chuckle over with my friends, used as an example of what he's interested in, and left sitting in my file manager collecting dirt for a while. I really don't want to show it, and even if I did want to, it wouldn't be available to find. The second post was a video titled, "That's Not What I Wanted," all lowercase, and the description read, if I can remember correctly, "Found Vol. I wanted jitters and comedy noises. This not what I wanted, you whore. This not you lie." And it just goes on and on like that. First sight we were greeted to was the flashlight of a phone camera pointing to a steel floor blanketed in dust bunnies. The breathing behind the camera was extremely hard, filled with bitterness towards something, and a faint buzz hummed around the room. When the camera panned upward, we nearly threw up. We saw a woman looking to be in her mid-20s, in nothing but a crop top and panties that were pulled down to her knees, eagles spread on a table. Each orifice had been covered in black, and I could see a little bit of glass on the floor.